I was a detective with Marathon County Sheriff's Department in Wisconsin, and my partner and I came to Texas in pursuit of the man that murdered his best friend in Wisconsin.
To this day, I am still in absolute shock about what happened between Robert and Dean.
In the beginning, I was just a carpenter. It's in my blood. My daddy was a carpenter too. When he left us, I dropped out of school to provide for my family.
He was very charming. He was a nice-looking, clean-cut young man, and he was just friends with everybody he met.
I was Dean's aunt, but we were born so close together, you know, like 8 or 9 months apart. So we were kind of raised like brothers and sisters.
As a rule, life was as flat as the prairie. Then someone came along who didn't play by the rules.
Let's just say I had my own rules. 'Cause I figure you only live once. I'm a butcher by trade. Always liked the freedom it gave me.
Robert was from Wisconsin, and anytime someone moves from another state to Texas, most people notice it because of the difference in their demeanor. And to me, Robert stood out because he had the long, shaggy hair, and people were, really noticing that because at that time, most people didn't wear their hair long.
Robert was, I would say, a little bit rougher than what Dean was. He was smoking a little dope at different times, and he was just kind of, I wouldn't say strung out or anything like that, but he was just a total different person than what Dean was.
Dean and Robert first met at Tardy Tom's arcade game room.
As far as I can recall with Robert and Dean, I never saw them ever even get into a spat. I mean, it just seemed like they just clicked.
I went over to Dean's house all the time. The door was always open, and I liked his family. Well, I really liked his young aunt.
The first time I met Robert was when Dean brought him back from the arcade. I thought he was really nice and had an outgoing personality.
I was really close with Ann. She'd had sadness in her life, so it was good to see her smile.
Robert was able to bring out a part of Ann that I feel like that she had never felt before, and before you know it, they were in love.
Seeing them so happy made me want to go find someone for myself. Her name was Janice, and she was the woman of my dreams.
Janice was a very nice-looking woman. She was really friendly and, really surprised me on some things. She was really an intelligent person, and she really fit in.
Dean's mother preferred them to get married. We were raised in the Catholic Church, and it was just her religious beliefs that she just preferred them to get married instead of living together.
I was kind of surprised because Dean was only 17 years old and Janice was well into her 20s. I don't feel like that he was really ready to make that kind of commitment, but I think that he felt he was.
Robert and I had been living together a couple years. So Janice suggested that Robert and I try to go ahead and get married. We'd, been together quite a while then, living together.
I was always the life of the party, not exactly the marrying type, but I wanted to make Ann happy. And in a way, I tried to make my best friend happy too.
But now that we were officially family, I looked at Robert in a different light. And I didn't always like what I was seeing. I'd remind him that he was married to my aunt. He was her husband now, not some party boy.
Dean enlisted in the Army because Dean and Janice was having financial struggles.
Dean and Janice were stationed about 200 miles away in Killeen, Texas. I missed them both. But it was a little easier for me without him breathing down my neck. And it gave me a chance to make some new friends.
It was pretty much common knowledge among the close-knit group of friends that Robert was possibly stepping out on Ann.
Once Ann found out about me and that college girl, things got ugly. We fought a lot. I didn't think our marriage would survive.
We talked to Ann all the time. I was furious with Robert when I found out what was going on. I knew he could be a dog, but this was going too far.
Then, of all people, Janice called with the perfect solution.
Janice suggested we move to Killeen to try to work things out.
I think at that point, people were like questioning in their head, like, what is the situation here?
The whole reason we moved was to get away from that chick in the butcher shop. But there was a new temptation in the very next room.
Ann caught Robert and Janice in the house. She'd gotten off from a babysitting job early and was there at the house, and they wouldn't open the door.
Shortly after I suspected Robert and Janice was having an affair, I told Robert I thought it was just enough, and I wanted to come back to Nacogdoches.
So Ann and I packed up and came back home. Ann didn't say a word to Dean, but it was a wake-up call. If I wanted to save the friendship, I'd have to cool it with Janice. So I told myself I was over her, and I believed it. Almost.
Years went by and we led separate lives. But when my Army stint was through, we moved back to Nacogdoches.
That incident in Killeen, Dean never knew about it. So when he came home, our friendship picked up right where we'd left off. And the thing with Janice, it wasn't over.
I did confront Robert about the relationship, and he apologized and said that Janice was, kind of like seducing him.
Once I admitted that to Ann, our marriage was over. I left the house and I told her I was moving back to Wisconsin. But I had other plans.
Robert and Janice left. Dean did not know where they had gone. Ann, after a few days, came to Dean and said she found out where Robert and Janice were staying. Dean went with a rifle. He pointed the gun at Janice, said, "Where's Robert?" And she said he went to take a shower, and he went looking for Robert. Robert came around the corner and grabbed the end of the gun. As he did that, the gun went off, and Robert let Dean go.
We were both still alive, but I knew our friendship was dead. We got out of there fast, me and Janice, and we took Janice and Dean's kids with us.
Early part of May of 1990, Janice wrote him a letter. And she told him that she loved him and she hoped that he would take her back, and that Robert was not treating her and the children the way they should be treated.
Dean told me that he was going to go to Wisconsin and that he was going to get his wife and kids back and that he was going to take care of Robert permanently.
I let Janice know I was coming to get her, and I set off on a 1,000-mile drive.
The door was unlocked, apparently, that he just walked in with the machete taped to the end of the sawed-off shotgun. Robert and Dean got into a tussle, and the machete fell off. And at that time, Janice picked up the machete and stabbed him in the back.
They actually used Robert's most prized possession, which was his butcher knives, to actually butcher him. It was a total act of defiance.
Well, I know they cut up his body and put it in 4 or 5 garbage bags.
Dean Allen had told people that Janice went with him and helped bury the bags. In fact, threw dirt on top of the bags to show that she loved Dean.
I wasn't all that surprised when the Wisconsin police showed up a few days later. It turned out it was Janice who tipped off the cops that I killed Robert. That didn't really surprise me either.
Janice Allen testified in Dean Allen's trial that she was the one that stabbed Robert Pogue. So she was charged at that point with second-degree intentional homicide and received 27 years in prison on a plea bargain.